pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I get a roll call, please?
Alderman Alder. Here. Alderman Campbell.
Here.
Alderman Flores.
Here.
Alderman Galloway is absent. Alderman Gardner.
Here.
Alderman Poston.
Here.
We have 5 aldermen present.
Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes? And if so, are there any amendments or motions with regards to the December 6th and 16th minutes?
Yes.
Mr. Gardner.
I am trying to find that there was a humorous mistake. One of the very simple, but it said according to Mayor first. And it was December 6 minutes on under Bill 33. Is it December 6th, 7 o'clock meeting?
7 o'clock meeting?
Yeah, it was Bill 32, 23.
All right. Any other amendments or a motion?
Motion. Second.
Motion was made by. Can't get my pen to work. There we go. All right, motion was made by Alderman Campbell, second by Alderman Poston to approve the minutes as amended on all 3 meetings. All those in favor? All right. Perfect. There are no ceremonial matters this evening. Scheduled visitors and guests. Ms. Carrie Sands, are you deferring to Ron Showers? Okay, Mr. Showers, if you wouldn't mind giving your name and address to the clerk, please.
Good evening. My name is Ronald Showers, address 5209 Annandale Court, Ozark 65721. Welcome. Mr. Mayor, City Council members, thank you to speak. First of all, thank you for your service to the City of Ozark, to the residents. We're grateful for the growth, the improvements that our city is experiencing. My name is Ron Showers. I've been a resident here in Ozark for the past 16 and a half years. And on behalf of the group of residents here this evening from Turnberry Estates, I'd like to present a situation that we are asking for your help and your guidance with. Over the course of the past year, we have watched the construction and development of the Volleyball Beach Ozark facilities. Recently identified as, quote, the largest indoor volleyball courts in North America, we are thrilled that our city is attracting new businesses of this caliber. Personally, I grew up playing sand volleyball, and our daughter spent her elementary and high school years here in Ozark playing club and school volleyball. So it is very much a part of our family, and we support the idea of physical activity, social gathering, and definitely successful business. When the facility opened this past summer, the dome was not yet constructed, and the volleyball activities were conducted in the open air. We enjoyed watching the people gather to play, and to hear the sounds of people having fun was refreshing, especially coming out of the long effects of the COVID pandemic. When the dome was erected this fall, it immediately changed the landscape of Ozark. It's an impressive sight and can be seen from quite a distance, especially at night when it's lit up. Visually, it is very attractive and impressive. And for reference, I live directly behind it, kitty corner. I live on the north edge of Turnberry Estates. However, a challenge has emerged that we were not aware of, and that is the issue of excessive noise. When the facility first began hosting activities under the dome, I could sit in my living room with all of the doors and windows closed, the TV on at normal levels, hear the music from the dome above the sound of my own TV. In addition to the noise was the effect of the bass. I could literally feel the music. I understand that the business of Volleyball Beach Ozark is just that, beach volleyball. It is not a nightclub or a concert venue where music would be essential for the conducting of business. While we are not opposed to music as something that creates an atmosphere of fun, we are all negatively impacted by both the volume of the music and the intensity of the bass that is reaching inside our homes. Families with children are having to deal with issues such as lack of concentration while studying, doing homework, challenges with family social interaction inside the home, and most importantly, the disruption of sleep. It is not uncommon for these to be faced almost every weeknight and on the weekends, sometimes until almost 10 p.m., never excessive. In addition to my family, residents throughout the neighborhood have had their quality of life impacted by these same issues. Several have reached out to the Ozark Police Department to see if the police could intervene and legally ask the business owner to lower sound levels. These individuals were informed by the police that the complaints would be filed, but there was no legal action that could be taken because the current noise ordinance that reads section 215, and I'll just briefly read a section, 670, a person commits the offense of peace disturbance if he or she, 1, unreasonably and knowingly disturbs or alarms another person or persons by loud noise, or B, offensive language, which is not an issue here. We reached out to the owner through Volleyball Beach Ozark social media messenger on several occasions, informing him of the issue and asking for his assistance in rectifying the sound issues, including his staff into our home to experience what we were hearing and feeling, but they were not able to accept. We do acknowledge that noise and bass levels at times have decreased, but there's no continuity to the levels and is subject to the staff of Volleyball Beach Ozark. And because there's no legal standard to comply with, the business owner has full control over the levels. We are not interested in a fight or any type of legal battles. Our greatest desire would be the cooperation of the city of Ozark to both understand the problem and to seek a mutually beneficial solution with the residents and businesses immediately surrounding Volleyball Beach Ozark. To accomplish this, we are asking City Council to address this through a review and recommendation process of the current noise ordinance, along with a proposal of new wording that adequately addresses the problems. We recognize that sound and noise can be very subjective, so the idea of proposing an ordinance based on quote acceptable levels would not be in the best interest of the city. To that end, I would like to propose a review of the most current noise ordinance from the city of Republic, Missouri. I have printed out 10 of the 45 pages. In 2017, the city of Republic was facing the same issues with the growth, the development. They looked at the citizens' health and well-being and recognized that noise was an issue. So they hired outside firms, lawyers. They looked at all sorts of issues. They looked at it from a scientific perspective. They looked at noise levels. They looked at the Springfield ordinance. They consulted with the city of Kansas City. It's a very extensive process. They've already spent the money on a lot of research, and they've done a very thorough job on addressing it, which benefits all parties. And I want to submit this for your review if that's acceptable. I have printed copies for the council. Again, it's an excellent study. They spent a lot of time and money on it, and I think it would benefit the council to at least review that. The issue that we see here is not a matter of a business doing harm to its community on purpose, not by any means. We want to see this thrive. The challenge is because the city of Ozark doesn't have a standard more than that one sentence, there's no standard. And so the business owner, to his own defense, would say, well, I'm doing everything the city has asked us, and he's right, because there's no standard. So how does he or anybody know what is too loud, too soft, too anything? It's subjective. And so I don't feel it's fair to him as a business owner. I don't feel it's fair for us as residents, because there's no way to gauge what is too loud, too soft, what is detrimental. People with anxiety, PTSD, other issues that have to deal with noise. It's a very real thing. And so our request is that you would look at this, that you would review this, that you would address it. And thank you for your time.
Does anybody, pardon me, does anyone on the board have any questions for Mr. Shackles? Mrs. Alder?
Hi.
Hi.
So since you have talked to the owner, and you say it's been turned down a little bit?
Well, it was all through social media exchanges between my wife and the owner.
Okay.
There was never a denial or we're not coming. The invitation was offered, but was not accepted. So I'm not going to say that he said he wouldn't come. There just has never been a chance for him to be in our home.
And so have you noticed since then that the sound has been down, the bass has been down?
The sound has been down. We have noticed a difference.
Okay.
The challenge we're facing though is that is still subjective. We're still feeling it. We can still hear it.
Oh.
And
so it's still too loud even when they've turned it down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And does it go back up at times?
At times it does. And again, I know that's subjective because you're in a building, and we went over there ourselves to see it. And when I walked in, I thought, wow, this is a beautiful facility. The music didn't seem loud inside the dome because you're inside the dome, but when you go outside of it, it just reverberates and that bass goes through. And again, I would just ask the city to look at this more from a scientific sound engineer perspective of what solutions could there be. I think step number one is just a simple ordinance that speaks more clearly to the issue, defines the parameters for business owners as well as residents, because as Ozark is growing, this would be an issue throughout the area. We're attracting great businesses, and thank you for that. And we want to see this city prosper, but we want to see it for the benefit of everybody. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
I have these copies. Is there somebody I can leave these
If you
with?
want to give them to the clerk. Oh, Mr. Gardner, I'm sorry.
Well, it's just a comment. In the defense of the city, I know that the chief of police and the department head of planning and development did go out on site and try to understand what you were feeling and feeling and hearing and seeing, and were unable to do so. But because they've already reported back to the council about it. But I'd like to know more, and I'm interested because of how vague the ordinance is. I'd like to know more about what Republic has done. So I do think we should look into it. I just think that's the right thing to do. So I suggest that we do that.
Absolutely.
I printed out as well, for the record, my talk to you tonight, and that is a web link to the full Republic post. It's a 45-page document, has legal documentation, has notations from city advisors. It's all contained there. I printed out the first 10 pages just to cut to the chase so you can see the stuff that matters. If you want to read the entire dialogue, it's there, but I'll leave that for you for your records. And again, thank you very much for your time and your consideration on the matter. So appreciate it.
Thank you very much. All right. Any additional questions or comments with regards to the guest?
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Poston would like to ask a question to Mr. Smith.
Do we have anything in code right now that regulates sound? I mean, we just passed dark sky. We make you keep light on your property. We don't have anything like that for sound at all.
It's just what the gentleman just referenced in the peace disturbance ordinance that the PD follows up on. It's just that, I guess, can't think of the word right now, but that's what it is. It's kind of subjective and says that.
So under current rules, if something was done up front, it had to be done during plating. During the
Potentially zoning, plating, permitting, whatever. I'd be curious on the end of the day, if there is an amendment, how that applies to existing conditions.
Mr. Campbell.
Mr. Smith.
One more time.
My question has to do with the buffer. When you calculate the buffer or amount of buffer that's required or anything like that, first part of my question is, how is that calculated? And I assume they're meeting that now, but let's say years down the road, which not going to help anything in the next couple of years, but when that buffer zone matures, what's the effect of that going to be?
I don't know that I have a good answer of the effects of what it's like today versus 10 years down the road, but as it matures, you are correct. That would offer additional screening, buffering, dampening, absorption of that sound. But the buffer yard, they are meeting that, and it's based off a width from the property line and so many vegetation materials per linear footage, along with a privacy or a solid screening type fence. There's an 8-foot high fence along that southern property line.
This is, all right. If you would go ahead and step up to the microphone, give your name and address. Mr. Poston would like to hear your comments.
My name is Michael Severa. I'm the community manager and owner of Volleyball Beach Ozark. Thank you all for having us. My brother Andrew Betlock, my sister Madison Betlock, Kelsey Silvera, and my nephew Jackson. Sorry that you guys are having to deal with this. We are all servants of this community and the area, And we wouldn't have been in Ozark if it wasn't for people like Cameron and Steve and Mayor. I drove down from Kansas City to the Springfield area and looked at real estate and talked to the city council of Nixa, Springfield, Republic. And once we met here and I spoke to Cameron and we had a meeting here, we knew that Ozark was the place where we wanted to be. So I moved to Ozark, bought a home here. We decided to do our business here. Like they said, our business is the largest in North America. So Ozark now owns that. We bring the notoriety from the coast, north and south, and publicity here to make this place great. It already is, and that's why we chose it. The people complaining about what's going on is unfortunate, but from the beginning, we put up a 40-foot buffer on our real estate. We planted trees. We put up a $20,000 fence and moved the lights because they said that the lights were disturbing their peace or shining in their house. So we went up there and spent the money to readjust the lights to get it out of their windows. Now it's the noise. They came to the facility the other night. The music was on. We had leagues. They said the music wasn't that loud. The police have been out there almost every other night. For how long? My point is not to put them down or say that they're complaining about this and that. It's just that we're doing everything possible to solve the solution, not be a problem and not waste anybody's time. We respect you guys' time, just like the police. I have family that are community servants, not only for the fire department, but for police officers too. And I take that very serious when people are, I say, calling wolf or, calling that services, because I know every time a police officer steps on our site, they're risking their lives for our community, and they're having to take away from that for something that's not needed. We have the music off by about 9 o'clock or 8:30 every night, and we're still having issues with this. We've turned off the bass, moved the speakers around, pointed them opposite directions, and we're still having issues like this. Now, if this was a high school football game or the Chiefs Stadium was here, this would not even be an issue. They would, the community would say, there's no way we're turning down the music on Friday night for the football game. And their music is 100 times louder than ours, I guarantee it. Not only that, a lot of the complaints that we're getting, not all of them, some of them have nothing to do with us. There's been several times when the police have come out, the music wasn't even on, and I talked to them and said, hey, we got a complaint. I said, the music hasn't been on since 6 o'clock. It's 9:30. I said, when did you get the complaint? 30 minutes ago. Where I'm going with this is I would like to end this and have the police and other people stop coming out to our facility, because we've done everything we can. And I feel like if we took the music out, they would find something else to complain about. And that's not fair to the community or the people responding to it, because I respect everybody's jobs and the time, because like I said, the police and the fire department for everybody here. And this has gone on too long. So I asked you guys have been out there, the music's not that loud. I would just say, drop it. We've done everything to be a solution. The real estate market is up. You're gonna have huge profits on your homes. And
Sir, if you wouldn't mind addressing the board, and
I'm sorry.
we're going to give you the opportunity to speak, but we don't want to have a confrontation here.
I'm sorry.
And this is not the place for that.
Yes, that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time. Yep. Okay, so we run adult leagues, juniors leagues, practices, competitions. And here's another thing that we're bringing. The first time ever that the NCAA is having a men's college beach volleyball tournament national championship is this year, and it will be held in Ozark at Volleyball Beach, Ozark.
So the music, it's not, you're not having parties out there, this is just background.
There are birthday parties.
There are parties out there.
Yeah, we had a 13-year-old birthday party yesterday. We had the music on. The girls put on their playlist. They played volleyball for 2 hours. And that was that.
And what time will music, on a normal day, what time is music coming Time to start.
about 5 o'clock.
And it's going off by 10 every night.
Yes. But now Missouri State has also made Volleyball Beach Ozark their home. So Missouri State beach team will be practicing there from 2 to 5 and holding competitions. So they play and practice with music, just like all the other sports at Missouri State.
When there's tournaments and stuff, I'm assuming the music would be on because you want to have a system of some sort to your.
It depends what tournament it is. So like we had 2 weeks ago, we had a national qualifier for juniors ages 10 to 18. And we got a call and a police officer came up. He said, "What's going on?" I've been sitting in the parking lot for 15 minutes. I can't even hear the music, but they say it's shaking their walls. And I said, "What's going on?" And here's we're having a national qualifying tournament. I'm playing the music at strategic times when the girls are warming up or when there's a championship and there's a break and intermission. It's very strategic. It's just like I said, just like a football game where the Chiefs are playing, you know, first down, the music comes on, it's off. Now, sometimes for like adult leagues at night, we play music through the whole adult league. It would just be like us leaving our 9 to 5. We're going to need something to kind of get us going and fill the atmosphere. And that's what's going on.
All right. Ms. Alder.
So who controls the music? Do you, how does that work? Do you, or you have somebody in charge of that, or do
It's
the
our staff.
teams coming in, they can say how loud they want it? How does it
It's
work?
our staff, but we've lowered the music almost to the point where you can't in the very back corner of the dome towards their houses where we're getting these complaints, you can't hardly even hear the music. And I understand that sound carries, but we've turned off the bass. We've lowered the music. The police have been out there numerous times and they, you know, no one has a problem. And another thing is some of their neighbors that live directly next to them play almost every night and they know about this and they just think it's ridiculous. And I'm not saying that they're ridiculous or they don't have a claim to peace and there's not noise going on in their house. I'm just saying it's commercial property. We've done everything. We've spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to try to satisfy them. And we're going 9 months into complaints about one thing after another. And it's just kind of that old thing. If somebody's going to complain, they're going to complain. And
I'm sorry. I wanted to continue. 2 thoughts. So, of course, you're a business and you're trying to make the people happy that are renting your space. So if they come and say, "Hey, crank that music up," will you do that for them?
Well, to a certain extent. I mean, we're not trying to be disrespectful to anybody outside in any of the surrounding areas or businesses or other people inside, because some people don't like the music that loud. So, I mean, there is a level of music that we're not trying to, the music's not for like a concert or like a rave or something like that. It's to, you know, move people into a feeling or a spirit of competitiveness, a playful spirit. And that's what the music's for.
So sometimes it might be louder than other times.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's just like, you know, 2 weeks ago when I was saying, when a national qualifying champion and girls are traveling from New York and California to play here in Ozark, you know, we turn the music up before they play, but then it goes back down. But it's not to the point where I don't, it's hard for me to understand. And I didn't go over to their house after they asked because I didn't want any confrontation. And we have every right to do what we're doing. And we've done everything and spent tens of thousands of dollars to satisfy, from a 40-foot buffer to an 8-foot fence, to planting multiple trees and shrubbery, to turning lights, and now turning off the bass and moving the music. And it still hasn't satisfied their needs.
And then my other question is, you stated that they keep complaining about things. What else? It's the lights and the music. What else have they complained about?
A buffer, which they have that right, a 40-foot buffer from their property line to where we can construct business or have anything.
But you've done the buffer.
We've done the
So
buffer.
you say they're
Then
still complaining about the
They
buffer?
complained about us cutting down trees. And now that they have no trees, that, you know, their scenery is gone. Then the lights were shining in it. Then they didn't want people seeing into their homes because there was people playing volleyball out there. So we built a fence. And it goes on and on. And now we've had one complaint after, and they were complaining this summer about the music too. And, you know, we pointed the speakers in the opposite direction.
Mhm.
So.
So the three things are the fence, the buffer, and the music and the lights.
And the
Anything else?
trees. And we've done it all.
Okay.
We've done it all.
Okay,
And now we're here. The beach is still open.
Uh-huh.
We don't have that much staff hired. There's a staff shortage. So we all work all day, and now we're up here trying to satisfy, you know, help out the situation as best as we can. And this is it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, sir. I'll give you just a couple of minutes for a follow-up.
I don't disagree with everything that was said, but like I said, this is not a fight, he said, she said. I'd like to just propose this to the council. First of all, I'm representing what my family hears inside of our house. I'm not aware of the other complaints about trees or buffers, but I will say this. The city ordinance that allows for a buffer, trees, all of that was not necessarily based on sound dynamics. So I would ask, was a sound engineering company ever consulted when it came to the matter of noise with the business? I understand distance, I understand space, I understand a fence is designed to block visual impairments. Does nothing to do to sound dynamics. Sound wave travel in a different pattern. So the issues that he's bringing up are legitimate. He has done everything he has been asked to do by the city. My simple point is this: I would ask the city to reconsider what is considered healthy and beneficial to the residents and to the businesses. I don't want his business to suffer. I played sports my whole life. I understand music, but I also understand that is a dome. It is not a concrete building that holds sound within it. If you're going to Plaster, if you're going into JQH Arena, they can crank the music as loud as they want for 20 minutes and it's going to be awesome and everybody gets excited. When you have little kids who are trying to do homework and families who are trying to have a normal life, they don't want to hear music and they don't want to feel it. That is our concern. That is my complaint as a citizen of Ozark. It is not to the detriment of a business. It's just to the quality of life that I'm now experiencing inside my home where I can feel the music, not only hear it. It is not continuous. It is not always. It is subjective. It is up and down. I'm just asking the city to create a standard that we can all live by so we know what is too much. In Republic's proposal, they brought in sound companies, engineers. They determined what was acceptable levels between certain hours. There was more decibels allowed during the day. There would be a decrease at night. If there were violations, they even purchased the equipment for the law enforcement and others to measure the sound to make sure everybody was in compliance. So if it is a resident complaining and they're out, the business owner has the right to say, we measured it, sorry, everything is good. And we can live by that. I'm just simply saying, can we create a standard that we can all live by so that we can thrive? Thank you, appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Oh, did you have a question?
Just a quick question.
All right, Mr. Showers.
Something like this in the past with what was used to be the Duck Stadium and is now US Baseball. And I don't know how that was handled or is currently being handled, but there may be some point of reference there that would help us deal with this, because we have had that same outside problem with at the baseball stadium. So that'd be a place to look.
Absolutely. I think referencing back to the city of Republic that's already done some due diligence would be a huge help. And I guarantee you that Mr. Campbell will take that task to hand. And as the representative of Ward 3, and staff will get a chance to look at this as well. And we'll see if we can't do something to maybe help out all parties involved. So we're very much concerned about the citizens that live here and call this home, but we're also very concerned about the businesses that invest in our community. So if we can come up with something that's mutually beneficial, I think that's what we should do. All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys. And let's move into first reading of bills. Mr. Galloway is on Zoom. Is he? I do not see him, so he's completely absent. Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. Mr. Flores, would you mind taking over in the absence of Mr. Galloway?
Make a motion that we place bill 3320 at its first reading by title and description only.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Poston, to place bill number 3320 on its first reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
An amended ordinance adopting a budget for the city of Ozark, Missouri for the 2022 fiscal year.
All right, Mr. Childers.
Mayor, the administration bringing back that balanced budget for both 2022 that includes the
that were suggested by the board at the last meeting. We're happy to answer any questions related to that. But as far as going into the details of the budget any more than what we already did, it's the only changes that were made were what you asked for. So.
All right. Any members of the Board of Aldermen have any questions, comments, or concerns with this bill? Hearing nothing from the board. Is there anyone in the audience here this evening to speak on bill number 3320, the adoption of the ordinance for 2022? Are you here to speak on the bill at hand? The budget bill?
Has the, in that is city's lease with the A&M Society.
No, ma'am.
It's not.
That's later on the.
Yeah, that's further down in the
second
agenda.
reading bills at the end of the agenda.
All right. There's no one on Zoom, no one in the audience here to speak on this bill. This bill be held over. Oh, no. No, we're going to expedite this. We're at the end of the year. All right. Pardon me. We're at the end of the year. Mary Edna, please forgive me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. All right. Well, I'd entertain a motion for a second reading.
Move that we place bill 3320 on its second reading by title and description.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Poston to place bill number 3320 in its second reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
An amended ordinance adopting a budget for the city of Ozark, Missouri for the 2022 fiscal year.
All right. Any additional questions, comments, or concerns with regards to the bill? Hearing none.
Move that we adopt bill 3320 as ordinance number 102. Excuse me.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Campbell to adopt bill number 3320 as ordinance number 21-102. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Alderman Gardner. Alderman Galloway is absent. Alderman Alder. Alderman Flores. Alderman Poston. Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes. Motion carries.
All right. Wonderful. Mr. Flores, back to you.
Move that we place bill 3324 on its first reading by title and description. Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Poston to place bill number 3324 on its first reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
An ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Ozark, Missouri, chapter 405 relating to zoning regulations.
Mr. Smith.
Yes, this evening you're looking at a proposed ordinance revision. Just as to clarify, it was a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission as well. But the staff has been working on this ordinance for quite some time now. We've been discussing this in the past in regards to the single family ordinances. This evening, I'd like to kind of walk through those proposed changes. It's a fairly lengthy ordinance just because it makes reference to several other sections that are getting amended as well. At any moment, just stop me if I'm going too fast. I'm going to try to hit all the highlights in this ordinance. Yep. As I go through, I'll make reference to the page. But again, so staff has been working on these proposed changes for quite some time. This is in regards to the new single family ordinances, RSF1 and RSF2. These two ordinances will replace the existing R1A, B, C, and D in our ordinances as we have today. So in beginning in these revisions on page 2 of the ordinance, this is in regards to the definitions section. We are adding a couple definitions. One is an accessory dwelling unit. Staff gets a lot of requests for accessory dwelling units in the residential zoning districts to accommodate a secondary dwelling such as an in-law quarters or a loft above a garage or so forth. So staff is identifying that in these proposed changes. The second definition is in regards to the retired section, and that will be on page, get to it.
When you have an opportunity for a pause, Mr. Campbell has a question.
Yep, on page 14, retired. This is just making reference to the references in this proposed changes of what's being retired and it acknowledges no longer being used. Yes.
Actually, the only question I found so far that I had to do with on page 2, the accessory dwelling unit. It almost seems like to me that we're talking about single family, but now we're adding a second dwelling unit. Doesn't that almost fall under a 2-family thing?
No, because it's still considered a single family residence. It's not 2 separate families. It's their.
And how do you know that? I mean, let's say, I'm gonna try to do this politically correct. Let's say Mr. Hernandez comes up here to go to work, and a month later, family comes up here to go to work. So now you got 2 families living on one lot. Yep. Where do you draw the line? So how close is a family and how are you going to enforce that?
Further on in the sections, when you get to the individual zoning sections, it'll make reference to further defining those.
Okay.
So for instance, I'm on page 22, and this is actually under the agriculture, but it's used in other sections as well. It further defines an accessory dwelling unit, what is allowed, and kind of halfway through, the property owner must occupy either the primary dwelling or the accessory dwelling unit. So it doesn't allow for a other property owner to access or be served in those units.
I understand that, but does it keep, okay, Mr. Hernandez owns the property. Let's say the person that comes up is just a friend from where he's from, and he goes to work with him, and he rents him out this other property. How do you enforce that? I mean, how do you?
I mean, that honestly, that could even happen today in the single family. They could rent out a bedroom if that was a concern, but we are defining what is allowed.
This is different though. This is 2 separate dwellings on one lot that is considered a single family lot. And I just want to know how you're going to enforce it.
I guess the same way as if we try to enforce a single family and having multiple families living in one residence.
And how is that?
It's very difficult. I mean, I guess it'd be complaint driven and somehow an officer going inside the structure and enforcing that.
I have a hard time getting behind an ordinance that's very difficult, by your own words, to enforce.
So then I guess maybe I'd be glad to hear some feedback. We're trying to handle what we're getting requests for today, and in some cases is happening that we don't allow in the ordinance. So I guess we need to think about that as well for existing conditions.
Okay, but you are telling me that right now, if I've got a single family residence that I live in with my wife, and we decide we want to rent out half the house, are we okay doing that?
No, you're not.
Ms. Callaway would like to clarify a little bit of legal ease there.
That's one option that the Board of Aldermen could consider to address what you're proposing, where you would have what we call a short-term rental in the secondary dwelling unit, would be to adopt an ordinance that addresses short-term rentals. Those are the VBROs and the Airbnbs of the world that are not presently regulated in the city of Ozark, but you could regulate through an ordinance which would address that concern as it relates to the friend in the hypothetical situation that you presented.
I know where there are families right now who rent out part of their house to a couple of other families. I'm not saying they're not related to each other in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. And these people have lived there 3 years. So I'm not talking about just a short-term VRBO or B&B or whatever, Airbnb or whatever they call it. I guess, and I get what you're saying. You're here to fill some questions and their feelings, and that's my feeling, and I respect what you're here trying to do.
Yeah, my concern is there's another issue that may be going on that I don't know that we have a great way of addressing that. We're just trying to address with the concerns that we are seeing by applicants and requests of property owners of how to solve their solution or solve their problem that they're trying to achieve now.
Okay.
And I I respect the thought of the Airbnbs and the short-term rentals, but I don't want to get sidetracked and thinking about that this evening. That is not the intent of this ordinance, and that could get us going down a path that we're not ready to
Yeah,
talk.
I'm not talking about those either. Well, I want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem, so I'm gonna think about this, okay?
It's a large ordinance revision, and we're not trying to rush this. We're trying to get it the best we can so far, and so I'd be happy to address any proposed changes or thoughts.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Mr. Gardner?
Unless there's something I'm missing, which is quite possible, it sounds to me like it is legal. There has to be an application made, but if I wanted to build a second living unit on my single family lot, all I would have to do is apply for it and live in one of them.
Under a new ordinance change, yes, but currently you cannot.
I know, so why, I don't understand the advantage then, because now I recognize in the county, they come up with a lot of times somebody wanting to put a mobile home on an existing lot for, because somebody needs care. And they have a regulation that's allowed on a like a yearly basis, but it's inspected. And once that person no longer needs primary care right next to it, then they can't do it. But if somebody builds another, it's like building another house on a single family lot. You could have two houses and they could both be occupied by families. And that to me is not a single family neighborhood. That would be more like a R2, or I don't see why we're doing that.
All right, I'm gonna try to keep track of everybody because the lights are flashing. So we're gonna play roulette here. Whoever's light comes on solid gets to talk.
I just wanted to offer, I think I'm on, if I may, I wanted to offer a piece of information that I just spoke to Springfield about the other day, talked to one of the zoning officials there about what we were about ready to bring forward. Certainly this is a request that staff gets, and I think what Mr. Smith is doing is just bringing forward a potential option or potential solution. That does not mean at all that the Board of Aldermen likes that solution or wants to go with that solution. So I think that really is the purpose of the first reading, is we're getting this request. If you were to like this idea, here is how you would implement that. That doesn't mean that it's a good idea. That just means that it's a potential solution. I can tell you that the city of Springfield has been discussing this very same topic. It is the opinion of the staff that I spoke to that they're concerned about it. They don't know how they would be able to regulate it. They say they do get an awful lot of requests for it, but that they too were struggling with, well, here's the zoning, but there's 2 units, and when you have the one in the back, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And now Springfield, it makes it a little different. And I'm not, again, Cameron's bringing forward to you options to say, hey, do you like this or not? Because we're dealing with it at the staff level. One of the things that Springfield has that we do not have is a rental inspection ordinance. And I guess I would just like to offer, we've talked about that before as well. I got another email the other day in my box about someone who was having trouble in a rental facility that is not being well managed. And be that as it may, that may be something that you may want to consider discussing before putting something like this in place, so that it gives you a better opportunity to have an enforcement mechanism. I'm not saying that it would really be your answer to the proper enforcement mechanism, nor would you be able to know whether families were related or not, because I don't know how you would do that. But I'm just saying, you don't want to put the cart before the horse. I love it when staff brings creative ideas like this forward for you guys to deliberate, because I think that's important. I didn't realize Springfield was going through the same discussion until I called the other day, but found out that they were, and kind of got into that whole rental inspection situation. How would they manage that? And this would just be kind of exasperating, maybe something that we don't already do. And that's all I wanted to offer. I don't really have any other suggestions. I just wanted to let you know that conversation was had.
Mr. Post.
Cameron, is there a legal definition of in-law quarters? is that a real thing?
We've
Is it just a common
Googled,
term?
we've Googled both in-law quarters, secondary dwelling unit and several things, and there's, I'm not sure there's a specific definition. It kind of bounces around, but kind of clarifies kind of what we're proposing as similar definitions.
Because I understand what Mr. Gardner's saying. I mean, effectively, we're letting you build 2 houses on 1 lot, which is not what we want, but to have that in-law quarters to, you know, my son's gonna be going to Kansas City here soon and living with my brother because he's got a separate little place. You know, so that type of thing, I think everybody would be fine with, but I do understand this, trying to avoid this situation where you literally build 2 houses effectively on 1 lot. So, yeah, if you could come up with some ways to kind of draw that distinction around that so that we can, you know, have that, allow that situation where someone needs a caretaker, allow that in-laws quarters, allow that short-term family, whatever, but not having 2 true homes on 1 lot.
And one way that could be achieved, and as we kind of worked with the definition, attached or detached, I mean, you could strike the detached. We do see a lot of requests of a living area above a garage. A lot of times those are detached garages, but that may be one way addressing the concern of 2 units on one where they're actually attached to the primary structure.
And then just real quick, so I'm clear, and I don't want to derail this at all. This is just a quick question. Have we moved forward on a short-term rental ordinance at all? Okay.
That's Mr.
The
Flores.
one thing I would say is, you know, we're calling it an accessory dwelling unit, and it sounds like really most of the issues we're having trouble with is not it being an accessory unit, but it being a dwelling. And I know for most codes and things like that, for it to be a dwelling, it has to have a kitchen, for instance, or particular things in order to make it a dwelling. I think to have an accessory building, whether it be a living, like another bedroom above a detached garage or something like that, wouldn't be necessarily, or another building there, wouldn't necessarily be an issue. But I think calling it a dwelling and making it a dwelling would be the issue there. I think if we were able to find that line where we're calling it accessory unit and not an accessory dwelling unit, you know, wouldn't be able to have a kitchen or different things like that. I mean, there might be a way to do that where someone's trying to give themselves like I said, an extra bedroom above garage, or maybe a studio behind their house or something like that. You'd be able to do that, but it won't necessarily serve as a second home on the same lot. So that might be something to look into.
All right, Mr. Campbell.
Before I get into my thing here, I just want to point out that the definition that's on here right now, it calls it a secondary housing unit, which dwelling and housing to me is the same thing. The title of the description of the definition is accessory, but nowhere in the definition itself does it call it an accessory. But that could be changed if that's what you're saying. I agree with that. I think I would be in favor of this if there was a couple of things added. One being what Steve had mentioned, and I think this could even handle the other issue that we've got with 3 or 4 families living in one house, which is not allowed either, but it's happening. That would be if we adopt a rental inspection procedure. I mean, some way that we can adopt that procedure and go by it, then I think that might give us some teeth to enforce it if we have the procedure. You know, obviously that'd be by the attorney and whoever would figure that out. And the other thing is, I know in other places, and I've never really checked it out in Ozark, but there are places that from an insurance standpoint, if I build a pergola on the back of my house and attach it to my house, it falls under that pergola falls under a different insurance classification. So I think there's something to be said on the attached and detached. I've seen that. I have seen some, actually in Christian County, not far out of the city limits, but it got blew away by a tornado. Where there was a case in particular that a detached in-law, mother-in-law unit, or what you want to call, over the garage. It appeared to be detached, maybe to the untrained eye, but it actually had a breezeway connected them. So it was physically connected. And I don't even have a problem with that. But I think bottom line is, maybe if we add those two deals, you know, the attached, detached. Actually, I would not be for a detached at all. It has to be attached, even if that's a breezeway, you know, going to a attached garage. And then the rental inspection procedure. There again, I go back, I just don't see us needing to adopt an ordinance that we don't even feel like we've got a good way to enforce it. And I think this rental inspection procedure, we might be able to work through an enforcement thing there. Okay, and that's all I'm got.
Ms. Alder?
I hope the mother-in-law wasn't in the building when the tornado took it away. Okay. Oh, okay. I just, yeah, I would hate to see, being a grandmother and seeing that I might live with my kids someday, I would hate to see something that would prevent mother-in-law orders from being against the law. I just wonder if there's really a problem with, if there is a problem with, you say you know some people, but if there are multiple families living as one. I mean, I know a lot of people that their mothers live with them or in little units.
I don't know the people. I just know that there are.
It's happening. And I know people that have spaces above their garage. Their college student is living there. I don't know if they're renting or not, but I just never thought that was a problem. Maybe I'm naive.
You don't have a problem with that?
No, absolutely not. I mean, we're supposed to be helping each other. We're supposed to be a family, and I mean,
Well,
I would like to live with my kids one day.
I think in that instance, from what I'm gathering, that's not a problem. It's now that dwelling unit is sold to someone else and they're gonna recoup some of their mortgage by renting out to a completely different family, the unit in the backyard. And so now you have
But does that happen?
two
You think, a
separate,
lot?
I would imagine it probably would, yes.
Hmm.
The pure intent of the original application dies when that property is sold. And now it's someone else's to do it as they deem necessary or they deem appropriate for their own property. And I think that's where I see a problem coming. It's not the original application coming in because they're using it for a pure purpose of I want a place for my mother-in-law to be or whatever the case may be. But now 10 years down the road, they sell it. And now
So you're not
someone's
gonna let me live with my daughter?
no, I think that's perfectly fine.
Pardon me? Oh, so I have to be attached to their house? I'm not sure I want to be.
I think anytime that we, in my personal opinion, anytime that we draft an ordinance, we must look at least a little bit down the road to how that ordinance could be
Misused?
misused, yes. And not that we want to forbid something because it might be misused, but
Yeah,
how
that
can we
seems so
draft
funny.
language to not allow that misuse to happen? You know, and if that's a rental inspection process, I think is a great idea, provided that we have the staff that can adequately perform rental inspections on a rapid basis. Because that's one of the points of concern that I've heard with a rental inspection is the inspector comes out, sees an issue that must be fixed, and it may be 3, 4, 5 days before they can come back and re-inspect. And that could cause the property owner loss of revenue. So provided that we can do, as you've heard me say, work at the speed of business, then I think that's a great option to potentially have. But anyway, enough from me, Mr. Gardner.
This will be real quick. I think we need to define what an accessory dwelling unit / housing unit is. If it's got a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen, then it could be a separate individual dwelling unit. And I am definitely opposed to that being detached. There are houses all over Ozark where there are quote mother-in-law quarters. that probably is discriminatory in itself, but there are basements where there is a microwave, a cooktop, another bathroom, and there's a mother-in-law or some other family member living there. That you can't help that. But to allow somebody to build a separate unit for another family is going to cause problems down the road. And that if it looks and smells like a duplex, it's a duplex, as far as I'm concerned. So that's.
So to clarify on the dwelling unit, and we can further investigate for the international building codes, but it is a dwelling unit. It is what I would see as a standalone. So it's going to have a full-blown restroom, bathroom, kitchen, whatever, because we do make reference to any accessory dwelling unit shall be built to the international residential building codes. So it will not be just a bedroom. It's going to be as if a standalone residence.
It's 2 living units on one lot.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It is a single family primary and then accessory, which is an accessory use to a primary use. So it is 2 dwelling units.
That doesn't exclude the fact that there are going to be people that need that. But like for care, I mean, if I were to get ill and I needed a family member to come take care of me, they have those requests in the county all the time. And they'll allow them to put up a mobile home temporarily, but they monitor it. And a year later, if it's still needed, but it's not permanent.
Mr. Flores?
The only thing is more of a question than anything is we have special use permits, you know, for people in their home and they're operating their business out of their home and stuff like that. So they come and there's a process for that. And usually the only time we have an issue is whenever it's impacting a neighbor or something like that. Whenever there's too much traffic or they're not staying in their driveways or different things of that nature. You know, it makes you wonder if this is just a thought, but if this wouldn't be able to be kind of regulated in the same way. Where if it's not really a nuisance to neighbors and there's not really a problem there, then there's not a problem. But like you said, we don't want to create an issue where now we have people trying to build stuff in their backyard so they can start renting it to people. But isn't there some kind of state law or anything that regulates rental to outside sources that are being a lease or anything of that nature? Is there any kind of state law or anything that would regulate that at all?
No, not only has to be regulating
And then I do want to clarify, in looking at the ordinance, I don't know if you caught this, they are under a conditional use. So they're not straight to permit. They have to have a conditional use approval before they can do an accessory dwelling.
So this does kind of fall under the same.
Just like a home occupation or something like in that nature.
I think the only thing we could do if we did do the dwelling unit, because you do have a good point. You know, if you do have a detached garage and you wanted to make mother-in-law quarters, it seems like, you know, it is one family and it makes sense to be able to do that. And I would hate to deny that to somebody, but I think that we would have to have a way to be able to regulate that to make sure it doesn't become the thing that we would fear where people are building small units in the back and trying to rent it out to other people and supplement their income with it. So if we weren't able to, I think we should be able to find a path. I would like to think we could, where we can write an ordinance that would address that. I'd hate to do it without having that in place. But once again, I would refer to you guys on whether that's even possible or not.
Do you feel like the majority of the requests are truly legitimately for mother-in-law quarters? Or do you feel like some, if not, or half, or none at all, I don't know, would be because I'm trying to find a way to actually, I got a big lot, I want to build an extra apartment in my backyard, I want to rent it out. I'm just curious.
I would say about half of them is for like an in-law quarters. The other half would be like thinking in the future of
Kind of a business endeavor.
of an Airbnb kind of scenario or a short-term rental or some sort.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Poston.
Yeah, I will say, you talk about this long enough and then you never know what's going to happen. So I've come full circle. My initial reaction was kind of what Mr. Campbell said. I don't, you think about the idea of every lot all of a sudden becoming 2-family lot. And then after listening to the comments, I've sort of reached a point of, what do I care? If you've got 10 people living in one house and 2 people living in 2 houses, I would prefer the 2 people in 2 houses. I would prefer the less people, the less traffic, right? So at the end of the day, I'm in favor of a short-term rental. I want to know, we need to know who's responsible if there's a noise complaint or, something needs to be done. That's different. But, the more I think about it, what do I care? What do I care? You've met the setbacks. You fit in the lot. You're going to have a driveway capable of accommodating whatever vehicles you have. We've got regs more or less for noise and other issues. What do I care who lives in that house next to me? Okay, so I'm talk myself back into being in favor of it, Cameron.
Yes, sir.
It's actually a question for Ms. Callaway. If I can remember what I was going to say. It kind of seems like the conversation that we just had about the noise ordinance, the property's zoned right. They're doing everything they're asked to be doing. We've spent thousands and thousands of dollars to make this right, even better than right. The neighbor still just doesn't like it. So you've got that situation where it leads me to the question that I remember I was going to ask, but it just seems very similar to that, because what might be fine to one person that has the two lots may not be to the person that lives next door. But I'm always sympathetic to our property owners associations and our homeowners associations. And I realize that we, the city, do not govern the covenants and restrictions that are imposed upon a subdivision. But being homeowners that buy into a subdivision that get the covenants and set as covenants restriction, we follow that, or we try to, or the board tries to. With this ordinance, if allowed by conditional use, would one of the conditions be, or could it be, I guess, should it be, that it is also allowed by the homeowners association, if there is one, kind of like the Springfield's ordinance about the short-term rentals, in which they just set something that said, look, they have to be spaced out so many lots, I don't remember, so many feet.
1,000 feet.
Yeah, but also I believe that the neighbors adjacent to that also have to agree to not, or
Everyone within 1,000 feet, I believe, has an opportunity within so many days. Instead of it just going for approval, it triggers it to go back to either planning and zoning or the Board of Aldermen to first be reviewed, and then they can come and speak at a first reading as to their concerns about it being a rental property. So that is a similar process that this board could consider if they adopted an ordinance related to short-term rentals. If your question was related to adding language to the code, to allow for a homeowners association to either prohibit a mother-in-law's quarters or a secondary accessory dwelling unit. I believe staff, I would refer back to Mr. Smith, but I believe staff would probably leave that out of the code language. But then if the HOA prohibited it, it would be a civil action between the HOA and then the property owner, and they would likely stop that before it got to the process of a conditional use permit.
So the ordinance could be forcing HOAs to take civil action against their neighbors, which would never be a really good thing to have happen. That's what the ordinance could force.
I believe any of your zoning ordinances could force that presently if it conflicts in some regard to a more restrictive HOA covenant. That happens presently, and at any time they could be making a decision to take civil action to ensure that all neighbors are following the covenant. So I think it might get very cumbersome on staff to be cognizant of all of the HOA associations and their covenants that have been filed, but place that burden back on the HOA if they want to enforce that.
Yes, I would agree. And I want to bring up an example because we ran into this about 1.5 years ago. We permitted a wood privacy fence. The HOA required a black iron, wrought iron type fence. City was not going to get in the middle of a dispute between the fence type. So I would not get into the middle of a dispute if they can allow it accessory or not.
Yeah, and I wouldn't suggest that we get in the middle of that dispute. I was just really bringing to light that just kind of the conversation is that when you hear, you have to ask yourself on one hand, do I care? But on the other hand, is it worth it? is it such a demand at such a high level request that you would do something that could disrupt what I'm hearing may be a disruption? That's the question you have.
But
to
in
ask
the
yourself.
process of a request coming to you in the planning and development department, do you first tell them to check their covenants and restrictions for anything that might?
We always refer back. I mean, I wouldn't say we tell that every time, but we always try to make note that you guys might want to confirm with your covenants and restrictions because we don't enforce those.
Absolutely.
So that's upon them to determine that.
But yeah, I mean, with their application coming forward, it's not worth our time and energy to go through the process to approve a wooden fence if their covenants and restrictions don't allow it. So it should be on them to.
They need to do their due
find-
diligence
yes,
first. Yes.
absolutely.
There's nothing that prevents us from issuing them a permit for that.
Understand. All right. Oh,
No, you're not in.
I'm-
Conditional permit, that expires if the property changes hands, correct? Because where I'm going with this, so I built a mother-in-law quarters over my garage, I sell the house and the new homeowners don't get the permits, so they gotta tear it down.
You're correct, the conditional use permit runs with the owner of the property.
So how do we do that?
The second owner would have to also
Make it.
apply for a conditional use permit.
And so like I said, if denied, they gotta go gut the building.
I don't know that they would have to gut the building. They just wouldn't be able to use it for that purpose
Mhm.
legally.
That'd be something. we want to-
Yeah.
Okay.
Make a note of that.
Mr. Campbell,
I think I was.
I don't know. You want to go first?
He was good up first.
Sorry, I was just, the only thing I was gonna add to that is, you know, if, and I wouldn't have a problem if someone had the particular, I guess what I'm trying to say is if we'd have to have for in my opinion, for an accessory dwelling unit that could potentially be used for an Airbnb or something like that, which wouldn't bother me if somebody did that. But, you know, I don't think as of right now, if you say, for instance, someone came in and that was their intent, was to build something so that they could Airbnb it, seems like we should have, and we may, I'm not aware of it though, that we had any regulations where it's like, well, you have to be able to drive up to it, or you have to be able to do this or that in order to be able to use it in that capacity. And then if you were going to build one and use it in that capacity, you know, having to like maybe register it if as long as what you're going to do, or so, that way if it changes hands or something like that, they know they have to go through that. It has to meet these requirements to use it as an Airbnb versus use it as a mother-in-law quarters, you know, in order for that accessory dwelling unit to be used in that capacity. That's all I'm saying. It seems like we'd have to kind of think it through and add some other language in there and do some different things in order to keep it from turning into something we wouldn't want, but at the same time, not really stop people from having the ability to do what they want to do with it.
Taking care of their mom.
Yeah, taking care of their mom and doing just whatever they want to do on their property, I guess.
Mr. Campbell.
I'm all in favor of helping our builders, developers, whatever you want to call it. I don't think we need to tie this to the HOA because I live in a subdivision where solar panels on your roof are not allowed. There's a subdivision right beside me that does allow it. The city don't need to get into that. The other thing is to answer Mr. Poston's question. If we do go forward with this, and then I'm in favor of it not being detached. I'm in favor of it being attached, which I've already said that. And I'm strongly in favor of starting a rental inspection program. I don't know if that takes it out of the conditional use permit or not. I'd let you all figure that out. And it doesn't matter. It really don't even need to be part of this conversation, I don't guess, on my part. I understand why he brought it up though. And
Yeah, I don't think the rental inspection would tie to conditional use. I think we can treat them separately as we move forward.
Mr. Gardner?
Well, if we think we've gone too far on accessory buildings, we haven't even approached
Page 3 of 63.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. We beat page 2 to death. We got 61 pages to
Well,
go.
I have got a lot of comments I would make on the R2 and the mini stories. There's some areas that contradict itself. And I think for a 63-page bill, it needs a lot of work, and I move to table it until we can get some of these things ironed out.
How about we table it and bring it back at a non-legislative work session? One agenda item that day. This, it'll take the entire time. Tonight?
No.
Oh, on that day?
On that special Thursday.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me.
Would it be possible to get any comments prior to then, so we can
Yes,
start doing?
absolutely.
I'd be happy to talk. I've got a number of things I'd love to talk with you about.
Mr. Campbell has about 77 Post-it notes hanging out of his copy, and there's not enough hours in this day. So yes, we'll get it to you.
No.
Mr. Poston.
I got just one more comment for me. For all the comments that have been made tonight, I just want to say thanks. This bill has been multiple years, I've been working on it for 2 years in the making. And so getting it this far has been a Herculean effort. So Cameron, to you and to Jeremy both, and everybody who's put any effort into this,
Ms. Keller.
thank you, because this is going to be an important bill. It's worth getting right, because it's going to be, it's a good bill. It's a really good bill.
For anyone that is watching this online, there is so much more to this bill than accessory dwelling units. So don't think that we're just trying to kick the can down the road. This is a very packed bill. Yeah.
63.
Mr. Gardner.
Oh, I forgot to turn.
All right. Well, you made a motion to table.
Well, I did.
You have a date?
Until after the next legislative meeting, we can discuss.
All right.
We have to put a date on it.
Yes.
You don't have to put a date on it, but it would allow us to move forward and allow staff to bring back.
No later than the second meeting in February?
That's the 21st.
Okay. So the motion was made by Alderman Gardner. Did you have a question? You look like you were thinking of something. Would you like to make a statement while I'm making notes?
Mr. Campbell, it being attached. I don't think that's important.
Okay, perfect. So table no later than, did you say that was the 21st? 2/21/22. But we will bring this back at a non-legislative work session seconded by Mr. Campbell.
This comment, I think your meeting will be on 47 minutes.
All right. Deuces Wild, 2/22/22, no later than. All right. So that motion was made by Alderman Gardner, seconded by Alderman Campbell for the tabling of the bill to go back to a non-legislative work session and then be brought back to the Board of Aldermen in legislative form no later than 2/22/22. All those in favor? Thank you, Mr. Smith. I appreciate that. We got to page 2. In the absence of Mr. Galloway, Mr. Flores.
Move that we place bill 3325 on its first reading by title and description.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Poston, to place bill number 3325 on its first reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a low-income household water assistance program supplier agreement with the Missouri Department of Social Services Family Support Division.
All right, Ms. Dan, floor is yours.
So we were approached with this, about a month or so ago. The information was sent to us about assisting people with that water and sewer bills. And so we just needed to bring it before the board. It's a little bit of work on our side, but basically it's really nothing that we have to do other than we will tell the people, Department of Social Services is helping with, finances up to $750. And if they qualify, then they do all the work and they qualify, then there'll be a list sent to us and we'll basically have to, and our program will do it, send them a bill along with the individual, so they'll know how much they're paying and they will pay their bills up to $750. So it's a little bit of work for us, but it's a win-win situation. It'll help us get some of maybe the bad debts collected. And I think Nix's their last meeting, they approved it. And I didn't think that we needed it to be an ordinance, but Amanda corrected me that it does have to be. So here I am.
Does anybody have, Mr. Campbell?
So our duties would not include subsidizing this in any way.
Nope.
But it would include a little bit of extra work. Basically, the bill comes to us and then we send it, then we forward it on.
We just forward them a copy of the bill so that they know what to pay. Like some people, we do have some people that are close to $750 behind, not very many, but there's, there are some people who are really struggling during this time. But, in a few months, it could just take up it could take that much up. Or it could be a person who lives in an apartment complex that their bill's only $35 a month. Right. So it's basically would be a spreadsheet that we would fill out probably. They send us the information twice a month. And so it's just basically a little bit of communication between us and DSS.
Okay.
I don't think it's a lot of work for us to do in order to get that kind of money, if we can get that.
So I see it helping us probably eliminate at least some write-offs. And as I understand it, and I don't know if it was on the explanation or not, but staff is behind this and it's not going to put undue pressure or have to hire another person type of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Not any more than trying to collect bad debts is.
Trust what the utility billing director is telling us, and trust me, Ms. Callaway can tell you I went back and forth on this because I wanted to make sure that we were doing the right thing, and I think it's a great program. I do, but I wanted to make sure that the reward was worth the effort. And after talking to our finance director and our utility billing director and our council, I believe in what they say that we should go forward.
So to clarify this is triggered one of two ways. Either the homeowner or resident can acquire or request the assistance, and it would be triggered that way, or we notice that there is an issue and we trigger.
Nope. So
it only comes from them.
Yeah. So if you're a low income family, you have to go to DSS and be approved. It's nothing. I mean, now we will, people who are,
if we know somebody's behind, we can supply the information to them for them.
We already, OCAC, I don't know if y'all are familiar with OCAC, but we refer people to OCAC a lot. That's all we do. We say, see if OCAC can help you out. Maybe Salvation Army can help you out. We try to refer people to agencies that are helping them. And basically that's exactly what this is. The only thing is, it's the up to $750 that they're going to pay. So we kind of have to keep a spreadsheet or something. I haven't talked with UMS yet, but I think that our system will even track that for us, our new billing system.
Okay. Perfect. Mr. Campbell?
And I noticed it in regards to what the mayor was saying there. There is a remark in the explanation that says that the billing department will direct the customers in need to this program.
Exactly.
So just saying that.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
The program was enacted a few governor and it goes through 2023. So as soon as you can put it into effect, it will assist the water department.
I mean, it's up to you.
I move
Hold on a second. Any other comments from the board? Is there anyone in the audience this evening that would like to speak on this bill? There's no one on Zoom. No comments from the audience and from the board, then Mr. Flores.
I move that we place Bill 3325 on second reading by title and short description. Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Poston, pardon me, to place bill number 3325 on a second reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a low-income household water assistance program supplier agreement with the Missouri Department of Social Services Family Support Division.
All right, any additional comments with regards to the bill? Hearing none.
I move that we adopt Bill 3325 as ordinance 21-103.
That was you? Okay, sorry, your voice sounded a little different. Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Poston to adopt bill number 3325 as ordinance number 21-103. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Alderman Flores.
Aye.
Alderman Alder. Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Poston.
Aye.
Alderman Galloway is absent. Alderman Gardner. We have 5 aye votes. Motion carries.
All right, thank you, Ms. Stanley. All right, in the absence of Mr. Galloway, Mr. Flores.
Move that we place Bill 3326 on its first reading by title and description.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Gardner to place bill number 3326 on its first reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
An ordinance calling an election in the city of Ozark, Missouri on April 5th, 2022.
All right. You gonna take that, Mr. Childers?
Be happy to. I think that everybody recognizes what this is. Times probably one of the ordinance I'm aware of is this bill is to put forth a ballot initiative in April 2022. That would ask the voters if they would like to
Continue to impose a sales tax of 3/8 to 1% for the purpose of improving streets, intersections, pedestrian pathways, bridges, and transportation right-of-ways within the city limits of such tax sunsetting 5 years after the effective date of imposition of such tax. So this is the ballot initiative that will ask the voters if they want to renew the transportation sales tax that was originally passed in 2017. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the audience, or pardon me, the board? Mr. Campbell.
Just a statement. First I want to say I'm for this, and I finally got my calculator working right and everything like that. But we're only talking about 37.5 cents extra on $100 purchase, or $3.75 on $1,000 purchase.
Yes, sir.
That I don't want to say everybody can afford that, because probably everybody can't. I mean, everybody, if you're already so far in the hole, then, adding a penny ain't gonna help you much. But so anyway, I just want to say I'm for it, and it's a minimal thing to me. But and I hope everybody gets behind it.
To each individual person, I'd like to comment on that. To each individual person, it does appear to be a minimal thing, but when you take the entire city of Ozark over the course of 5 years, and we're able to raise nearly $6 million, and the relationships and partnerships that we have taken that $6 million and turned it into $21 million worth of improvements for our town, it's huge. It's absolutely huge, and I think it's imperative that we try it 5 more years. I mean, I really do think it's in the best interest of everyone that lives here, so. Any other comments, concerns, questions with regards to the bill from the Board of Aldermen? Is there anyone in the audience here this evening that is here to speak upon this bill? No further comments from the board and or the audience. This bill will be held over to the next legislative session. Resolutions. Yes, yes, sir.
Is there any deadline that we have to have this language accounting for?
There is a deadline, but I believe we're good on time.
We're fine on the deadline. That has to be to the clerk by January 25th, because we will bring forward a secondary bill for the election of the aldermen. The desire by our assistant city administrator was to have this language so that they could work on informing the citizens that this will be coming forward. So there's no need to expedite, but that's why this one's coming forward early.
Do you have a question? No? All right, well, bill number 3326 will be held over to the next legislative session. We're going to go ahead and move into the resolutions. And in the absence of Mr. Galloway, Mr. Flores.
I move that we place resolution 1963 on its first reading.
All right. The motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Poston to read resolution number 1963.
A resolution by the Board of Aldermen of the City of Ozark, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into and execute national settlement agreements.
All right, Ms. Callaway, would you like to go ahead and explain that?
Yes, the city was notified by the Missouri Attorney General of a proposed settlement agreement in the opioid lawsuits involving multiple states. The city presently has no independent action against the opioid distributors or the company Johnson & Johnson. The proposed settlement has many contingencies, one of which for the state of Missouri are how many participating agencies sign on to the settlement agreements. So the Attorney General has contacted municipalities over 10,000 in population to see if they would be willing to consider to enter into these settlement agreements, because for the state of Missouri, the maximum calculation of a proposed settlement, if they meet all of the contingencies, is $457 million. The proposed settlement will be divided by 70% going to treat opioid addiction, 15% of any settlement will go to the state, which will also fund the same, and then 15% will be split by all the municipalities. In the explanation sheet, I've included the proposed or estimated percentage that the city of Ozark would receive, which is not a large amount, but what the citizens of Ozark and Missouri will receive are the treatment opportunities for the opioid crisis. I'll answer any questions tonight if you have any.
Are there any questions? Ms. Turcan?
Does this encumber us either from a public safety standpoint or any standpoint that would cause us extra work, or some unfunded mandate come along because we jumped on board with this, or do we know that?
There's no unfunded mandate that I'm aware of presently. What's been proposed is only that the city of Ozark has no independent legal action against these. I think there's 4 distributors, and then there's a secondary settlement agreement with Johnson & Johnson. And the city of Ozark has no plans, to my knowledge, to independently seek legal action against them. So all it is binding the city of Ozark to this settlement agreement, so you can't bring a further action against them. But you do then get a share in the settlement allocations, and the Missouri Attorney General has requested our participation.
So I don't see it putting more work on our public safety department, do you?
No, as far as I'm aware, there will be no additional work to the law enforcement.
Okay.
Any additional questions or comments with regards to the resolution? Hearing none.
Move that we adopt resolution 1963. Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Campbell to adopt resolution number 1963. All those in favor? That is unanimous with the members present. All right, second reading and final passage of bills. Mr. Flores.
I move that we place bill 3316 on its second reading by title and description.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Poston to place bill number 3316 on its second reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
In 2 appointments to the Town and Country Village Community Improvement District Board of Directors.
All right, does the board have any additional comments or questions with regards to the bill? None at all. Mr. Flores?
Move that we adopt Bill 3316 as ordinance 21-104.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Campbell to adopt Bill number 3316 as ordinance number 21-104. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Alderman Gardner. Alderman Flores.
Aye.
Alderman Poston.
Aye.
Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Galloway is absent. Alderman Alder. We have 5 aye votes. Motion carries.
All right. Bill number 3317, Mr. Poston.
Yes, sir. We would place Bill 3317 on its second reading.
Motion was made by Alderman Poston, seconded by Alderman Campbell to place Bill number 3317 on its second reading. All those in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into an addendum to a memorandum of understanding with the Ozarks Transportation Organization related to the US 65 crossing feasibility study for the Chadwick Flyer Trail.
Ms. Payne?
Sorry, I couldn't get it to unmute. Yes, sir. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Mrs. Payne? None at all? All right. Thank you, Ms. Payne.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Post.
And I move that we adopt Bill 3317 as ordinance 21-105.
Motion was made by Alderman Poston, seconded by Alderman Campbell to adopt Bill number 3317 as ordinance number 21-105. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Gardner. Alderman Galloway is absent. Alderman Poston.
Aye.
Alderman Alder. Alderman Flores.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes. Motion carries.
Mr. Flores?
Move that we place Bill 3318 on its second reading by title and short description.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Poston to place Bill number 3318 on its second reading by title and short description. All those in favor?
An ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Ozark, Missouri, chapter 600, alcoholic beverages to amend the Sunday sales hours to be consistent with state law.
All right, Ms. Callaway had some clarifying remarks with regards to the bill. I'll turn the floor back to her.
Thank you. At the December 6th Board of Aldermen meeting, Alderwoman Alder asked a couple of questions related to paragraph 4 at the top of page 2 of the bill. These questions related to the liquor license titled Liquor by the Drink, malt liquor, light wine only, and it is for sales on premises for on-site consumption. I contacted the Missouri Alcohol and Tobacco Office and also conducted some research, which they confirmed was accurate. This language sets forth one of the 7 liquor licenses available under this section and is written this way specifically with reference to light wine because of the state law section 31190. In that section, it preempts any other sale for on-site consumption besides light wine. So we are restricted in the language to only authorize in this type of license a sale of light wine. They did confirm some clarification that the definition of light wine is 14% by weight, but wine as labeled is actually percentage of alcohol by volume, which actually, if you use a calculator that they sent me, translates to about a 17.7% alcohol in that type of wine, which should cover most wine for that liquor license. This does again only pertain to on-site consumption liquor licenses, which not all liquor licenses fall under that exception. If there are any additional questions about that specific question, I'd be happy to provide more information on that.
That definition work? Wonderful. Are there any other comments with regards to the Sunday sales? I would like to thank the Board of Aldermen for entertaining the bill that was brought forward to help create some consistency with the businesses in the community so that now that they're operating 7 days a week by the same standards. So thank you very much for that. And I'll be sure, once you guys vote on this, to pass along that information tomorrow morning. So that being said, Mr. Flores.
I move that we adopt Bill 3318 as ordinance 21-106.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, pardon me, and seconded by Alderman Poston to adopt Bill number 3318 as ordinance number 21-106. May I get a roll call, please?
Alderman Poston.
Aye.
Alderman Gardner. Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Flores.
Aye.
Alderman Alder. We have 5 aye votes, motion carries.
Alderman Poston.
Mr. Chair, I move to replace Bill 3319 on its second reading. Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Poston, seconded by Alderman Gardner to place Bill number 3319 on its second reading. All those in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a lease agreement with the Christian County Agricultural and Mechanical Society.
All right, any questions, comments with regards to this bill? Mr. Gardner.
Yes, I have a comment or two. I think the most appropriate thing to do at this point is to table this. The reason for that being that we are in we meaning the city and all of its partners in the Transportation Development District for Finley Farms are in the process of working out easements for the construction of the roadway for the Transportation Development District. And those easements have not been worked out. And I think it's in the best interest of the city to table this until they are. I know that the request for easements was made by Spencer Jones with Great River Engineering, who is the engineer for the Transportation Development District. He made those requests at the A&M Society meeting in December. I spoke with Mr. Jones, that's how I know this. And he said that they took that under advisement in a closed session, asked him to leave, and they would respond to him later. And I have a copy of an email that they sent to him after that meeting was over, and I'd like to read that to you. It just says, "Hello, Spencer. The board voted to table the decision about allowing the easement till the next meeting in January. Can you send me the drawings showing the actual elevations for the proposed work there as well? The board wants to give the special road district time to communicate to the A&M any concerns they will have, and for us to also complete the negotiations with the city regarding the potential lease. I will update you once the decision has been made." Well, that is reasonable as far as I'm concerned, but I think it's in our best interest to get the easements out of the way. We have to have that that we are committed as a partner to the TDD, and to see that go forward, and not having those easements is going to be a problem. And I think if we go ahead with the lease ahead of time, we just have less. I don't know about negotiating, because I don't know that there's anything in the lease I necessarily want to change, but I just think it's in our best interest to do it. And the reason, some of the reasons that they gave for not wanting to do the easement, and I'm repeating what I was told by Mr. Jones, is that they have a concern about the realignment of the roads as far as it affects the entrance to the park, because they do not want that changed. And in speaking with Mr. Parsons, any of the things that they have concern about, we can address and fix with their permission. And so I just think we need to work those things out before we finish the lease. The lease expires, the current lease expires the 3rd of January. And I'm not aware of any activities that we have at the park from between then and at least the second meeting in January. So I'm going to make a motion to table this to the second meeting in January.
Yes, sir.
The only thing I want to clarify is I think our extension on our lease expires January 1st. 90 days from October 30th.
Well, I thought
it's 2 days difference.
Oh, well, that could be. Yeah, it was a 90-day extension, and I went from October 3rd to January 3rd. Yeah, technically, you're right. If that's 90 days.
I mean, this could end up being a legal thing, so.
Yeah,
we want to make sure
my motion is to table it till the second meeting in January, regardless of when it expires.
Any other comments, questions? Mr. Poston?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Gardner here. This would be the second lease I've went through for this property. And what's happened over the last 5 years is we went backwards. We've gotten none of the terms that we want to change, and we're giving up more days and paying a higher price. And honestly, I don't even care about the price. At no point have we ever got to negotiate on money because we can't actually agree on a term. To me, that is the entire sticking point. That's the ballgame. Until we can get a term that's reasonable, we can't keep kicking this down the road. And I feel like, we're looking at, I think it's June normally when the duck race is. So we've got some time here to find an equitable, and I think that's a key word there, equitable agreement. This agreement cannot continue where we give what they want and then get nothing. That's not equitable. It's not equitable. All the city has asked for, to the best of my knowledge, is a longer term. And I think we need to iron this out. I would actually ask that you invite either their entire board or perhaps their president to come and speak with us. All these negotiations have been done second and third hand. I would actually like to have them explain to me what it is that they want and how can we help them achieve their goals. And then hopefully, if we can understand that, they can help us achieve our goals of getting a long-term agreement on that part.
Absolutely. Coincidence or not, but I had a conversation with Mr. Childers earlier today, and he has been tasked with assembling numerous meetings with all taxing districts to meet with this board. So this board will be sending out invitations to meet with every single political subdivision that we have interaction with. So I think it's imperative as we continue to evolve as a community and our overlapping of political subdivisions that we must know each other. We must be able to call each other by name and not just recognize a name on a piece of paper. And then we must all serve the citizens of the city of Ozark and the outlying areas to the best of our abilities. And the best way to do that is to open up all lines of communication. So
hopefully they'll be at the top of that list.
They are definitely the number one name written on the list. So,
and I did want to say before we vote on the second, that I believe that there was somebody in the audience that wanted to.
Well, but that's.
There is someone in the audience, and our ordinance do preclude that.
Oh, it is second reading, you're correct.
Yes, but I am more than willing to converse with you as soon as this meeting's over, provided that this is going to be tabled, then it's not a dead issue. It's just going to be restarting back up. So I would like to meet with you after the meeting if that's all possible. And any other, if you would like to join in that as the liaison to the Park Department, I would invite you to that as well. Mr. Campbell.
A question for Alderman Gardner, or maybe even the Assistant City Administrator. I don't have a problem tabling this, and I don't have a problem getting behind Rick's motion. I'll just set that Alderman Gardner's motion. Does anyone know or has anyone heard what repercussions, what risk or repercussions or whatever you want to call it, are we undertaking by continuing to operate a park there and not being under contract, since the contract expires before before we act on this, I guess?
That's a legal question, and she's primed and ready.
All right.
When the lease would end, we would no longer operate a park in that facility. I don't believe the lease has a holdover provision. So in essence, the city's occupation of that area would end on January 1st.
Does that mean we got to take our Christmas lights down before January 1st, or we're going to get in there and work? Or, I mean, I can see it being a sticky point, and I don't know. The main part of my question is, I don't have a problem with tabling this. What I've got a problem with, the real question, I guess, to start with, was if Alderman Gardner or City Administrator Payne had any conversation with the or Mr. Poston, whoever, had had any conversation with A&M Society on the possibility that we may extend this and what their take is on it.
Mr. Gardner?
I have had no communication with the A&M Society, only with Spencer Jones with Great River Engineering, who was at the meeting. And the result was the email that they sent to him that I just read. So that is all I know. I would just like to get these very important easements done first.
Mr. Poston?
Ms. Payne, just to clarify, does this going to cause you any immediate problems in the short term? Is there any activities at the park right now?
Yes, there's Christmas lights, and then we also keep all of our supplies. Our parks department is housed out of there, so everything will need to be removed as well. If it's not ours and we have to vacate it, it is a real problem for us. The park maintenance shed, sir. We keep all of our maintenance stuff. We have 3 guys housed out of down there. That is also on the leased property.
You didn't, basically what she was saying is once the lease expires, then she would need to remove all our possessions from the property, which could cause an issue with the Christmas lights of Ozark being assembled and all of the maintenance in the maintenance building, all their equipment, tools.
I personally think it's important that.
Go ahead and turn your microphone on so Ms. Payne can hear you.
I personally think it's important enough, and I guess we'll vote here when somebody seconds Alderman Gardner's motion. And I'm ready to second it, but I think it's important enough to move forward with it. And if I may, if there is no other discussion, I'd like to go ahead and second his motion.
Is there any additional discussion?
I have some discussion. We will not be able to get the Christmas lights out fast enough. We cannot go fast enough. If I started today and I worked straight through, I could not get them done by that time.
Mr. Gardner.
Well, I'm probably not up next in the queue here, but I've got a question in regard to that. Okay, getting them out on time. You said, Ms. Callaway, that there's no holdover provision. So we can't automatically assume that we can do that. But I think that we could reach out to them and request that they somehow, whatever method you would suggest, we get permission from them to hold over until we can work this out. And I would think with their permission, we could do that.
That would require additional ordinance with the drafted language that amends your current extension to come before the Board of Aldermen prior to January 1st, which is going to require a special meeting of the Board of Aldermen.
Okay.
Just so everyone's aware of that.
All right, well, then it would appear as if the board has to make a decision about the most important thing, whether and I understand what Ms. Payne says about getting all the lights out of the park. There's always the chance that we just don't do that, but we're also going to could have a problem if we don't get these easements. And I know that Mr. Jones is working with MoDOT to determine just exactly how much right of way we have there. And it's my understanding from him that that is not determined yet. It is not determined yet. So I don't know where that puts us, but I do know that we could be less likely to be in a favorable negotiating position on the easements if we have already signed the lease. So I realize that the complexities of that, it's a catch-22. So.
If I could, I would like to I bring up the other side of that. If we are a leasing member of it, we also have a little bit more power in terms of we have some invested interest with them, and that might make them feel more comfortable and that we're going to stay, as opposed to giving us less power. It could actually give us more power because we are leasing the park. And we have the right to terminate the lease anytime we want. If we move forward, we can terminate it if they won't give the thing. But it may give us some more power if we are at least a leasing agent in it, and at least we can be at the table with them as opposed to nothing.
All right, Mrs. Alder, you had your, are you gonna defer? Mr. Gardner?
I don't know whether it would give us more negotiating clout, so to speak, with or without the lease. I just know how important those easements are. They are critical to us going forward with the TDD, which we are already committed to, and we have partners that we're committed to. And so I was a little bit disturbed by the fact that they didn't want to make a decision until we did. And I'm not quite sure why that is, because they were asked for easements. And my understanding, and I don't know this, I wasn't there, but Mr. Jones said that there was some concern about the easements because they don't want to close off the current main entrance to the park, which is what we call the caboose entrance, okay? Because of the proposed or the ease of getting large trailers in there, not just a regular horse trailer, but maybe a large trailer. I think the term in the meeting that Spencer told me about was a pot-bellied trailer full of steers. Okay, that's probably a much larger, heavier trailer than a horse trailer. I realize that they have to the park for those things. Mr. Parson has assured me that they have already, the city has already plans for improving the roads in the or maybe one or two of them to where trailer access would be adequate without that main entrance. And I don't have a problem with the main entrance being partially open if there's enough room there to use an entrance. But the traffic alignment is a problem too. And that's that the gridlock that occurs with a left turn. And I just think those are critical things. I mean, that's a traffic issue, even if there's not a lease. And we're about to realign those roads and the traffic pattern, the stop signs, and there's a roadblock that we have not put up. So I don't know what the solution is. I wish they were here, and I wish that, like has already been said, we need to sit down, understand the problems that the consternation that we have with this. And I understand, man, I love that their mission. I'm not trying to thwart their mission at all. But we have got other issues to deal with that don't have to do with their mission. And that is traffic alignment and the going forward of the TDD. And those two need to mesh. And it doesn't look like they are.
Mr. Post.
I want to hear from Mr. Childers in a second, but you know, after the last meeting, I had made the comment that I wanted to immediately start looking for Plan B, and this is why. I am so sick of this contract coming up at the last minute every time, and then having our hands bound and not having any time to take any action. I do not want this happening again. Ms. Callaway, do we have did I understand you correctly that we have the ability to terminate this lease at any time?
There's no termination clause in the ordinance, so you'd be bound by state law as to the notice required to provide for termination.
Which is?
It's based on your rental term, so I have to read that.
But I could have to give up to a year's notice.
Sure. In my basic rental law, comes with that to be generally, if you don't have a termination clause in your lease term. Most leases are shorter than that provision comes into effect. So I was reviewing state law and the fact there's no termination clause in this drafted contract. But you might be bound by state law on how.
And you said one term, that would be 5 years.
No, your terms are based on 1 year at a time, so you pay rent based on.
I got you.
Year,
Oh.
and so by arguing it be 1 year.
I'm gonna let let you go ahead and then I've got something to say, but go ahead.
Whoa, I'm just trying to, I'm just trying to evaluate and put into context everything that's going on here. So I just, what I've heard is that everybody recognizes that we want to work together with the A&M Society. Everybody recognizes the value of being able to have the park. The Christmas lights are down there right now. I don't know why that this got tabled. Maybe the A&M Society didn't really understand what our deadlines were with regards to when we had certain meetings or something, but I don't know that. But, and I hope that that doesn't happen again. Maybe with better communication and bringing the boards together, maybe we can sit down and we can all understand and get on the same page with each other's goals. But we are where we are right now. Not to 1 second belittle the needs of transportation, because we have a lot of transportation improvements to make. We have a lot of safety improvements to make, and the easements are pivotal. That is absolutely true. The situation is that we have a lease before you tonight on a second reading. I don't know whether or not that is a year long. I mean, it sounds like the terms are a year long. So the worst case scenario is that you have a lease for a year. I believe that we can sit down with the boards and figure out where everybody needs to be. I think we can do that, because I do think everybody wants to see joy in what's down there. So it doesn't seem to me to be reasonable to be able to not do this at this moment. I don't believe that we're giving away any of our negotiating leverage, if that's what you wanted to call it. I do believe, though, that there is no way we could get the Christmas lights out of the park, and there's no way we could get our equipment out of that building in that amount of time, and I don't believe either one of those are achievable. So I guess if I had to make a recommendation, I would say we all spoke about what the situation is. We all recognize that we want to get the boards together. We all want to figure out a solution to this going forward on a more long-term basis. But it seems to me that we're in a situation where my recommendation would be probably to move forward with approving this lease, allowing for Ms. Callaway to do some research on whether or not the termination is 30 days or 1 year. But be that as it may, that gives us more time to sit down and talk and get on the same page. I don't know that we have any other better option at this point, just presented with the facts. And I guess that's what I wanted to say. And I, with all due respect, I say that. I'm just looking at the matter at hand. So, thank you.
All right, Mr. Gardner.
That's actually me.
Oh, I've skipped over you. I'm sorry. I'm gonna come back to you.
That's fine.
Well, with what Ms. Payne said about taking everything out, and what Steve just said, and with what was right under my nose, it is a 5-year lease. There's no holdover, and there's no provision for doing anything other than it's subject to annual appropriation. Okay, we have a 1-year budget and we can enter into a 5-year lease, but it's subject to annual appropriation. So we have got a year. If we sign the lease and appropriate the funds, it's okay. Ms. Callaway is nodding her head yes. My interpretation is that we have got 1 year to work this out, or we can not appropriate the funds. We don't have to terminate the lease. I don't want to terminate the lease. I want the park, but I want those easements. And we've got to have those easements. So we're just subject to annual appropriation. So with, have you already has my motion been seconded? No, it has not been seconded. Then I'll withdraw my motion. Somebody else wants it, they can make it.
Mr. Campbell?
I thought I did second. I intended to second it.
You said you had no problem seconding, but you never did officially
That's a good
second.
point.
And we can review the tape, but my memory is pretty
No,
good.
you're fine. I withdraw. If I seconded, I withdraw that second.
I think technically, I can't allow you to speak. We're in the middle of a second reading of a bill. And I want to follow the ordinances because I'm bound and I took an oath to follow the ordinances of the city of Ozark. So I don't want to contradict my oath. Otherwise, I would love, and I will speak to you after the meeting.
As an alderman, do I have the authority legally?
No. I've already pursued that. Yeah, I've already pursued that in the ordinance book and was given that answer earlier on. Not tonight, months ago. I think that from me, as a lifelong resident of this community and having enjoyed that park my entire life, I see the value in the community, having that aesthetic piece, that picturesque park that we can utilize. And I think that anytime you're negotiating, you want your terms to be favorable to you. I did. I went to the A&M Society and I told them that we would like to purchase the property so that we can make enhancements for our community. That was denied. I asked for a long-term lease so that we could at least ensure that whatever monetary improvements we made to the property would depreciate out and the citizens of Ozark's money would have been spent wisely. And that was denied. So now we're down to 5 years. But ultimately what we have here is a piece of property that they own that we would like to use. I don't like to utilize the terms leverage, power, because the only person that really hurts when we start utilizing those terms is the citizens of our community that we work for. I have no doubt that we can sit down with the A&M Society and work this out. And that is why one of my goals is to broaden the ability of our communication with all of the boards in which we work. That conversation Mr. Childers and I had earlier this afternoon, we're going to be working on that. Should you choose to table this or vote this down, by all means, I'm going to reach out tomorrow morning with the A&M Society and try to work out a deal between now and then. But I don't know that it's necessary. But if you're the legislative body, and if that's what you choose, then that's what the executive branch will work towards, is achieving your goals and your wishes. The citizens are first and foremost in my eyes, and we work for them, and we need to honor their wishes. They want a park, then we need to work out a way to make that happen. And I'm going to dedicate myself to put those two boards together so that maybe we don't have to do this every 5 years and we don't get down to the last minute. But I don't want to put the citizens of Ozark as a negotiating tool or a bargaining chip. And I don't like the words power of negotiation. They understand that they have something that we want to utilize so that we can provide for our people. We know that those easements are important to the transportation. We've focused a lot of energy over the past 5 years on transportation. So I see the passion that you have on this topic. But I don't know that going that direction that aggressively is going to help us achieve our goals. And with all due respect, I say that to you.
Oh, no, I agree, because we found another way to deal with it.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. We always have that. Annual appropriations is always an option for us. No one member of no one body can burden another body in the future. So we can always do that if it comes to that. But I don't think it's going to have to come to that. I think there's a way that we can work it all out and we can achieve what's the most important. That's taking care of our citizens. So I will get off my soapbox and turn the floor back over to, you pointed at yourself, but his light's flashing. So I'm going to jump over to Alderman Campbell.
I think Steve brought up some good points, and I think Alderman Gardner's research and Ms. Callaway's I don't know what that word is. Analysis of his research is all good. There's just one thing I want to point out. I got this thing from I guess it was from Scott Stein to Spencer Jones. I feel like, and this is just for y'all's information, if you want it or not, to clarify what I think's going on. I feel like that, and Jeremy, Mr. Parsons may know this for sure. Whenever there's not only a horizontal alignment going to happen with the entrance, there's also which Ms. Payne I think alluded to. There's also a vertical alignment that's going to happen. In that vertical alignment, that road the new entrance is going to be raised. Let me take it back. I said that wrong. What is the name of that street? McCracken? McCracken and the intersection with Riverside. In my opinion, from what Spencer Jones said when he gave us the presentation, that is going to be raised. Whenever you raise that, you have to maintain a certain slope. And the toe of our slope, which is where our slope ends on the bottom, would be the toe of our slope. From raising it, the toe of our slope is still going to be within our easement, as I understood it. But it's going to encroach on the existing entrance to the park. So if we're going to do that road work under the TDD, you know, or everybody it comes under, if we're going to do that road work and we're going to raise that road, we're going to have to extend that slope out, and the toe of that slope will encroach on the existing entrance, but it will be within our easement, as I understand it. And if Mr. Parsons knows more, I'd like to hear from him, or if anybody does.
I think, and I don't mean to take away from the question at hand, but the matter at hand is the lease of the park, and any TDD improvements. I mean, we can ultimately, I mean, if you want me to bring him up, I will, but.
No, I don't.
But
I mean,
the matter at hand is the lease and not necessarily the TDD and the improvements or the easements.
well, I thought it had to do with the entrance. And I'm just saying that what I just said, is, in my opinion, one of the reasons that the entrance will be a problem. I don't think, I don't know. I haven't been in.
Yeah, and I think that's just some of that breakdown in communication. We're hearing bits and pieces from one and not the other, but do you have any additional, or Mr. Parsons, do you want to?
There's been communication from the TDD to the city, to the Ozark Special, to the A&M Society. Quite frankly, the project is still in design, so we don't know exactly where anything is going to be just yet. So really, we just met with them again the other day, and you know, trying to figure out how to move things around to try to make it all work. So I wouldn't want to get too far into that. I certainly understand what you mean, but I do understand that even if that were to remain inside the right of way that we have access to, there could be other temporary construction easements and things that are necessary to move around and actually do the work. So it's just, we just don't know all that yet. So I wouldn't want to go too far down that path.
I agree. That's a good point. Probably I should be.
No worries. All right, are there any other board comments with regards to the lease, Ms. Holder?
Just my personal opinion, I think we have, it will set things back and we have more to lose by not finalizing this lease tonight. I think it will make our goals easier and not harder. Just personal opinion. So I think we should approve the lease.
Okay, any other comments? Any motions?
I move that we, I'm sorry.
It's motion.
Yes. So he withdrew it. He withdrew the motion. Yeah.
All right, well, after all that, I move that we adopt Bill 3319 as ordinance 21-107.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Poston, seconded by Alderman Campbell, pardon me, to adopt bill number 3319 as ordinance number 21-107. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Alderman Flores.
Aye.
Alderman Gardner. Aye. Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Poston.
Aye.
Alderman Galloway is absent. Alderman Alder.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes. Motion carries.
All right. Mr. Flores.
I move that we place Bill 3321 on its second reading by title only.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Poston to place bill number 3321 on its second reading by title only. All those in favor?
An ordinance amending the budget of the city of Ozark, Missouri for the 2021 fiscal year.
Mr. Childers.
Mary has all the answers.
That is true. Any questions from the board with regards to the amending the budget for 2021? Hearing none, entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt Bill 3321 as ordinance 21-108.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Poston to adopt bill number 3321 as ordinance number 21-108. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Alderman Alder. Alderman Gardner. Alderman Poston. Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Galloway is absent. Alderman Flores.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes. Motion carries.
All right, report of officers, boards and committees. Mr. Childers.
I just want to say thank you, Mayor.
This board for allowing me to serve in this capacity. I have enjoyed doing that, and I continue to enjoy doing that. And it's nights like this where you see an agenda and you think, well, we'll be in and out of there in about 30 minutes. And, a little while later, you're still talking about this stuff. But I appreciate that you talk through it and you do so with respect. I appreciate that we have partners in the community that want to work with us on these things. So I just wanted to tell everybody happy holidays and thank you. And thank you for our staff for bringing forward good ideas. Cameron, thank you very much. That's not always easy, but darn it, that's what it takes, and thinking outside the box. And we appreciate you, the board and the mayor, listening to us as staff, because clearly we serve in a capacity to carry out the goals and objectives that you set, and we really do appreciate it. So thank you very much. That's all I have.
And y'all had a written report, pardon me, everyone had wow, goodness, all right. Everybody had a written report from Mr. Smith, but did anybody have any questions or comments for him with regards to that written report? Oh, yes, Ms. Alder.
I just wondered what was going in next to Popeyes. Yeah, is there something going in? Did they lease the other side?
Currently, right now, we've approved a permit for what we call an infill of a white box. So finishing out the exterior perimeter walls of that southern half. It's been conveyed to us that we will be expecting an application for a nail salon to go in that area. We just haven't received that at this time, but that same consultant architect has completed the permit for the infill of the white box. And then they said they'll be submitting the additional permit drawings at a later date.
Thank you. And then I've had people say that there's rumors we're getting a Starbucks. Is that true?
There's been discussions about that. We have consulted with the engineer in this case, working on the site plan for that. They say it's still in the works and in discussions, but they've yet to submit anything to staff.
Okay, thanks.
And maybe at some point in time, you can get to page number 3.
Page number 3.
Would you have any other additional?
I would like to add something. I want to point out in the report, 2020 was a strong year, even with the pandemic, and we had a lot of permits that were issued. 2021 was even stronger. We've issued more permits with that. Also would like to formally thank my staff. As you all may know, into 2020, early 2021, we had a complete turnover of our permitting staff. They have quickly got up to speed with permits, understanding our permitting software, understanding the city's ordinances. And with that, I would like to thank them. Again, it was a strong year and new staff, and we were cranking some stuff out. That's all I got to add.
Thank you, sir. Also, you had a written report from the Assistant City Administrator, Park and Rec Director, Samantha Payne. Did anyone have any questions with regards to that report or comments? None? All right. Miscellaneous comments and announcements for the members of the Board of Aldermen and or the mayor. And I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure this year being able to work with everybody. I think the staff is doing an excellent job serving the citizens of the city of Ozark and achieving their goals, wishes, and desires. I'm looking forward to a strong 2022, and as we work to try to build relationships with the neighboring taxing districts. So I look forward to seeing additional meetings on your schedule this year. But I think it's imperative for us to do our job properly, that we are able to communicate with all those taxing districts and get on the same page. So a Merry Christmas from me to every one of you and all of your families. Board comments? All right, wonderful.
And I don't know if, I don't know if well, I guess we have these ladies here. And for trouble. Meetings, what have you, it's available.
The Hershey kisses. The Hershey kisses. Yes, yes.
Oh, I know what it was. It was. It was the comment that she made, I think, at the last legislative meeting, that we had broken 100 ordinances passed. I don't, what's our goal in 2022?
I don't know. I wouldn't mind like low 60s myself, but
Seriously, this staff, all you have, a pleasure to work with. We appreciate you as much.
absolutely. Any other comments? That being said, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made, you stayed quiet pretty much the entire meeting except for adjournment. Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Older to adjourn this meeting of the Board of Aldermen. All those in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous of the members present.